Hi, thank you for coming. And first of all, I want to thank the selection committee for not backing away from a college dropout who is roughly 3 times their age. So before we start, I want to take you on a little journey inside my mind so you can see maybe where we're going. My husband likes to describe the workings of my brain as something like navigating through the maze of the streets of Venice. Or maybe if you peeked inside my jumbled mess of an art room, he says that's what the inside of my brain looks like and works like. So if you combine that with my age and the fact that I have had 3 forms of chemotherapy, we were kind of planning on going on a straight line today, but I can't promise you anything. But what we're going to try to do is take the journey of what it is to have a passion in life, and with me it was photography, and hone those skills and build a career, and then let yourself be persuaded into a little nonprofit. So for 30 years, I have run a business built solely on this passion for photography. As a child, I would pick wild blackberries in my hometown of Squim and sell them to buy my first camera. And then the high school yearbook advisor taught me how to use one of those twin lens reflex cameras. A couple years later, when I married my husband, he had a Nikon 35mm camera, and photography became a part of my daily life, but especially through the birth of my daughters, who came after I had suffered 2 miscarriages. I knew that recording their lives was going to be important. And so I recorded them in every phase of our lives because I wanted to remember the magic of those times. With family, with friends, with favorite coaches, we did it all. Friends started to take note and called and asked would I photograph their children and then their weddings. And it was a really magic process because as it happened, many of the people that I photographed their weddings, I photographed their children, and I have watched those families grow before my lens. And now I have the pleasure of recording many of those same children as they graduate from high school and move on into college. So I had a really great career. And it was built on this passion, and I had used no advertising. And in the time when you had a landline, I didn't even have a listed phone when I was doing this. People just liked the work. And so after about 15 years, there came an opportunity to take my camera in a new place. I'd take a little bend in the road, and I was going to take my camera into a place that I now describe as standing on holy ground. I took my camera into Seattle Children's Hospital to record for families whose children have life-threatening illnesses. I do this in memory of my niece, Lainey, she was full-term in utero when she died, and to my best friend's son, who happens to be, this is his younger brother, pictured at his wedding. And I dedicate it to those 2 children that were a very special part of my life. Now, maybe a crucial part of this type of progression that I was not really planning on this work of legacy becoming anything more than just a small kindness. It was my desire to use my camera for this purpose of legacy with no plans of it going beyond just serving the few families I was called for. Working only from the heart, knowing that each family I served would now have some beautiful images to help them navigate through potential loss. I was not distracted by other concerns and could let my work become more solid as I learned how to function in some of the most dire situations. As I started volunteering at Children's, I realized the intensity and the sorrow that would flow into my life was massive. And I would need to learn how to deal with this to keep moving forward. For all the healthy children I photographed each week, if one of them was a patient, it would outweigh all of the others. So I needed to find a way to emotional stability. The sorrow was really not mine to own. Through my work, I met this beautiful baby boy named Josiah, who passed away shortly after due to birth trauma. I met this little guy, again at Seattle Children's, and he lived very shortly after this. And I learned from these two alone that short lives are valuable lives because of the amazing love that gathers and surrounds them. So here we are working away, just me, quietly, respectfully. And because of HIPAA laws, no one really knows what I'm doing. But the phone rings. It's a local writer named Fred Moody. He wants to know if he can write a piece about what I am doing. But I tell them it'll be okay, but you need to concentrate on the families, not on me. This is really not about me. And so we agree, and he writes the article. And it ends up in People magazine. Now, I have to say, I really didn't understand that anyone read People magazine outside of grocery store checkout lines or dentist's office. No, really, I'm a busy working mom. My husband tries to warn me, but I just pass it off. But the day it hit the newsstands, my phone started ringing off the hook. My email was full of questions from local families wondering about having their children photographed. CNN calls. Ann Curry, formerly of the Today Show, does a piece and is nominated for a National Emmy Award. And to this day, she still takes her own camera into hospitals if she should be visiting. She's a very good photographer. CNN calls, King, Como, Cairo, all do pieces, and PR gets involved a number of times. And I'm thinking to myself, I am just a photographer who is trying to do a small kindness, and this is a lot. I need help. I need to form a board. Oh my gosh, I need to raise funds, and I am anything but a fundraiser. I am no good at that. But I need to lead, and I see that this door is opening. A new direction is here, and I need to listen to the world, and I need to step through that door and keep going. The faces are beautiful. The love surrounding each child is intense and unconditional. They have heart disease, cancer of the brain, blood, and liver. They have sarcomas. They have cystic fibrosis. One named Joey has Tay-Sachs, and that led to years of me attending and photographing at the National Tay-Sachs and Allied Diseases Family Conference. The children have uncontrollable seizure disorders, muscular dystrophy, trisomy 13, trisomy 18, Down syndrome, and are premature. They are beautiful, and they take your breath away. I meet a young man named Francisco. He walked here from Guatemala to raise money to send home to his mother, who was suffering from kidney disease. He is diagnosed with a rare form of cancer and dies. He is the first teenager I work with in this project. I meet Sydney, a 12-year-old girl. I bond within minutes with her in their family home. She and I share a love of art. And a few days after taking this photo, I get the call to come to the hospital to say goodbye. And I slip a Valentine under her pillow. A few days later, the family calls to ask me to speak at her memorial service. It goes on and on. It never ends. So after identifying my life's work and listening to what was being said, I know to move forward. And I want you to know this has never been about income for me. I would never charge, our organization will never charge for one of these shoots. For me, it was a thank you to this community in Seattle who has honestly supported me so beautifully. It's the least that I can do to photograph these families. But now I'm entering into a world of nonprofits, and I realize that we are making a difference in a new way. Because of the PR and because of what people have seen, we are now opening minds to these type of stories, and now the families don't have to be so lonely and feel like these losses have to be so hidden. The work is valuable and respected, and then my own mom dies. I need to ask for help. My own grief is so big that I need help, and I start calling photographers. And my good friends respond and pick up the torch, and we move forward, rarely, if ever, missing any request. We now have 60 volunteer photographers, and in the year that I started, when People magazine came out, 2005, I photographed 35 families. Last year, we photographed over 300. We're at about 1,750 families served to date. We have 3 office staff, and we have countless other volunteers because we make beautiful gifts to surround each one of these sets of photos, and they're all handmade. So we're solid in our work. We move forward, and in 2012, the pain that I have been feeling and has been waking me up every night for weeks is diagnosed as lymphoma. And I kick and I scream and I shout and I call for my family, because now I have stepped into the world I have been recording. I do it loud and I do it with anger and fear. But I have seen small children do this with something that looks to me like grace. And I know I have to put on my big girl underpants and deal with it. I've fallen down the rabbit hole of cancer treatment. So to distract and amuse myself, and maybe be able to realize one more dream, that of walking the red carpet at the Academy Awards, I start putting on these costumes and I think, you know, maybe if I put the photos up on Facebook, the Coen brothers will see them and they'll cast me, and maybe I'll get to walk the red carpet. But, you know, that hasn't happened quite yet, but you never know. And I become more empathetic. I bond with all the blood cancer patients. There's a little scar here that I can show to a blood cancer patient of any age. It's our little badge of honor, let's say. It's our scar from our port. But I go through 6 months of horrendous treatment where I am so sick, I'm so nauseous, I'm so bald, I can guarantee you wouldn't recognize me. But I come out of it, clear scans, and I re-engage, and I'm fully back into my business and my life, and especially into Soulumination. But in a year and 4 months, it's back. The cancer is back. And this time, I decide I am going to take these photos, just like other legacy photos, and I am going to make a difference. And I decide I'm going to start raising funds for the Leukemia Lymphoma Society of Washington. I decide my idea would be I would do the big climb because I'm not an athlete, but I know I can climb that tower. And remember, I'm like that horrible fundraiser. I hate this cancer. And I go into a climb with 6,000 people in the #1 fundraising position. I will make a difference for these young people, and I decide that I will also be the 13th guinea pig in the now esteemed CAR T cell therapy. It is the buzzword of cancer treatment. It is touted and revered. You can see billboards about it. It's in every magazine that covers anything on cancer. But for me, it didn't work. So I've been in a watch and wait period. My first oncologist has died of cancer at the age 52. Many of the young blood cancer patients that I have photographed have also passed away. I am going to make a difference in research, and I'm going to do it through funding. That same thing I thought I couldn't do. In growing a nonprofit, I find it has actually grown me. On this past Monday, it was time for scans again. The watch and wait period is over again. We're going deeper into the rabbit hole looking for new treatments. I'm sure there'll be new costumes. And there will be more money raised, but I still have a life to live. And it's a lot about Soulumination. So I wanted to tell you about this. In talking to other women I admire who have launched successful and meaningful small nonprofits, one thing we have in common is that we were already doing the work before we realized there was even a nonprofit in the making. We were already putting into practice our ideas and learning how to proceed without any worry about following a plan. This way, the plan could be made based on experience and results. Using our own skills and resources to see the work come to life may be key. Do the work and let it grow. In time, others will see the worth and want to join in. Do not assume that we just thought money for good ideas was going to come our way. Good ideas really do abound. Put the work into practice, and then it seems you have the magic. Let the passion become your lifestyle. Others will join, and the world will change, and you will change. So what I want to end with is a very sad but poignant story. In March, I was away in Europe during the windstorm. I read that one young man had died. When I got home, I read further, and he worked for Pokemon. And it dawned on me that through my commercial business, my assistant Amanda and I had photographed him 3 times. I quickly called the vice president who had hired us, and she agreed to let us use their photos to make the signature gifts that are for Soulumination, because since the founding of Soulumination, we don't just work with children. We work with adults at end of life who are leaving behind children. So with this story, oh, and I wanted to show you the beautiful handmade gifts. They really are pretty spectacular. So it was another lesson learned with the loss of that wonderful young life. When you have your camera in your hand and you're working with people, you really don't know exactly the extent of the use of those photos. And it's not always going to be apparent. But as this brand new grandma can tell you, work with a camera is always legacy work. Thank you.